the backboard and load me on the helicopter. And I remember the helicopter taking off, and I remember looking up and seeing the blades swinging over my head, and then I remember seeing the roof of the inside of the helicopter, and then they were asking me questions, and I remember taking off. The last thing I remember is them asking my social security number. They knew it because you have that on paperwork on you, but they were checking my level of consciousness. And I remember I wasn't able to even get out the first number. I was so tired, and then that was it. And I woke up 8 days later at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. And I had been to multiple hospitals throughout the 8 days, and I heard a nurse say my name. John, do you know where you're at? And I opened my eyes and I looked, and it was a hospital room. And I was like, Germany? She said, no, you're in Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. You were just in Germany when you're now back in the United States. I was like, okay. She said, do you know who this is? And it was my wife. I said, yes, I do. She said, what's her name? And I was like, well, that's a dumb question. But then I couldn't remember her name. And the look on her face, she was like, he's even worse than the first night I met him. And that's a story in and of itself. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm just struggling to think of it. Luckily, I didn't say it as someone else's name. There would have been some questions to answer there. And then I was like, Katie. She was like, yes. I was like, thank God. And, as I was waking up. And so, advice here, gentlemen, you think your wife's upset when you forget your anniversary date? Try forgetting her name. She forgave me. I had a decent excuse as to why I forgot it. And so I looked around though, and being in a hospital room, and I looked and saw that they had amputated my legs where the injuries occurred. And my arms were in casts. I had a big gauze strip up my chest because in the blast my intestines had also been hit, and so I lost an inch of my colon. I remembered quickly what had happened, that it wasn't a dream, this all had happened. Then it all came rushing back, the sounds, the smells, and all of that. And I asked my wife, I said, where's Tim, where's Nellie? And I knew he had been with me at some point after the blast. She said, he's back in Iraq, he's fine. He's going to be okay, he got banged up, but he's going to return to duty in a couple weeks. I said, what about the others? And that's when she told me that two of my best friends had given their life. And for me, losing Corey and Brian, finding out at that moment, easily the worst day of my life. Hardest thing I've ever had to go through. Because it seemed like just 5 minutes before we were on a mission that we all volunteered for. Because we didn't have to go. A lot of us, those of us that went to Kosovo, we had to sign a waiver to go to Iraq the next year because we hadn't been home long enough. So we all were there for the same reason, because we loved our job. It was, seriously, it seemed like 5 minutes before that we were doing that, and then snap, in the blink of an eye it all changes. My life's changed forever, and two of my best friends are gone. So, as a 25-year-old at that time, that's a tough pill to swallow. But that's also the moment, missing my friends, and I don't think I'd ever cried so much in my life. That's when I realized also how fortunate I was to live through it. And that regardless of the fact that I had lost my legs, I was still alive. And I'd be able to watch my two boys grow up into men and raise families themselves. And my two friends didn't get that opportunity. So it would be pretty selfish and poor of me to feel sorry for myself and get down in the situation and give up when I have this second chance at life that they didn't get. And so that was kind of my awakening in my moment that I just said, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to come out even better on the other side. Thankfully, I have my wife there with me, and she's wonderful and wouldn't let me quit even if I had wanted to. Shortly after finding out that my friends had passed away, a doctor came in and said, okay, now tell me what happened. Tell me about the blast. And I didn't want to. I didn't want to. It was tough. And my wife hadn't heard the story, and she's sitting there, you know, crying her eyes out. I didn't want to tell the story, but they said, you have to. He pulled up a chair and he said, we've got all the time in the world, but you're going to tell me you have to. So I said, okay. And, you know, part of it is they want to test my level of memory and how severe my brain injury was, my level of consciousness after the blast and all of that. But also part of it is to get you to talk. And that's important. And I've been able to, I mean, they had me tell the story 50 million different times. And it gets to a point where you're better for it. And that's one of the blessings of being at Walter Reed, was that they made me talk about it, and I'm better now. So I've enjoyed going around and sharing the story and sort of teaching people the things that I've learned without them actually having to go through it themselves. And I'm thankful to those doctors that they had me talk about it. I'm thankful now that I'm able to talk about it because it is therapeutic. I've learned things now that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. Of course, I wish this hadn't happened, but I'm realistic enough, you know. I know that nothing I do is going to change the outcome, and so I have to make the best of the situation I'm given. And I think we all find ourselves in tough situations. I mean, we do. There's no two ways about it. This won't happen to the vast majority of people, losing legs and your friends, being this severely injured in a blast. But bad things happen to all of us. You know, whether it's losing a job, losing a loved one, financial difficulties. When I talk to high schoolers, boyfriend, girlfriend leaves you, whatever. At that time, that seems like the worst thing that's ever going to happen in your life. For me, before this happened, the worst thing that ever happened to me, the worst day of my life, was January 17 of 1999. Gary Anderson missed a field goal that would have put the Vikings in the Super Bowl. I was at the game. I was 17. That was my life. I was crushed. I didn't think the sun was going to come up the next day, but it did. And when I woke up at Walter Reed Army Medical Center on December 10th of 2006 and realized that two of my best friends had died and that I lost both of my legs, I didn't think the sun was going to come up either. But it did. It did, and I'm a stronger person because of it. My wife is stronger, my boys are stronger. So that's kind of the message. It's not that, watch out for roadside bombs when you get out here on Douglas Road. But when those bad things occur, no matter how big or how small it is, overcome it with a positive attitude, hard work. And you know what? You're going to be stronger after it. And, you know, if I had to pick my team for whatever that team would be for, if I had to pick the group of people who kind of coasted through life, really didn't have any adversity to overcome, if I had to pick between that team or the team that overcame adversity, I'm always going to take that because they're stronger and they're seasoned and they appreciate the little things. Like I said, I was a knucklehead growing up and kind of flew by the seat of my pants. Didn't really appreciate the things that I have and how precious. You know, it's not like I didn't care, but you just don't really absorb it until something like this happens, I think, or you take a step back. And I don't think I appreciated my little boys and my wife as much as I do now. I don't think I appreciated the little things like being able to listen to the radio, even if I'm stuck in traffic. It doesn't matter. The little things. And now I appreciate how important life is. You only live once. And I really believe that you don't start living until you realize how short life can be.